Get off this property right now. The words cut through the quiet afternoon like something unreal. Ethan Carter stood still, staring at the woman pointing at him from the edge of his own yard. What he didn't know yet was that this moment would trigger a chain of events leading to a shocking reveal, one that would bring unexpected authority to his doorstep. Ethan had lived in that house for years. The lawn, the driveway, the old oak tree near the fence, everything had been part of his daily life. It was peaceful, predictable, his, but now, a stranger stood there like she owned it. "I'm with the HOA," the woman said sharply, her tone filled with certainty. "You're not allowed to be here without approval." Ethan blinked, unsure if he heard her correctly. "This is my yard." She shook her head immediately, already dismissing him. "According to our records, this section is restricted. You need to leave before we take further action." The confidence in her voice made it feel real, but deep inside, Ethan knew something wasn't right, and as he looked around his own property, something told him this wasn't going to end the way she expected. Ethan didn't argue right away. Instead, he stepped back slightly, studying her expression, her posture, the way she held her clipboard like it gave her authority. Everything about her said she believed she was right, but belief didn't make it true. "I think there's a mistake," Ethan said calmly, trying to keep the situation grounded. "I own this property." The woman, Karen, let out a short, dismissive breath. "Everyone says that when they're in violation." She flipped through her papers, tapping a page as if it proved everything. "This area is listed under HOA-controlled land. You're not supposed to occupy it without approval." Ethan's confusion deepened. He had never heard anything like that before. He glanced toward the house, then back at the yard. Nothing had changed. No new markings, no warnings, no notices, just her. "I've lived here for years," he said. "No one has ever said anything." Karen stepped forward slightly, lowering her voice as if delivering a final warning. "Then consider this your first and last notice." For a moment, everything felt still, but then Ethan noticed something else, a black vehicle slowly turning into the street, and suddenly, the situation didn't feel so simple anymore. The black SUV rolled closer, quiet but unmistakable. Ethan didn't react at first, but Karen noticed immediately. Her confident stance shifted just slightly, her eyes narrowing as she tried to understand what was happening. The vehicle stopped near the curb, two men stepped out. They weren't loud. They didn't rush. But there was something about their presence, calm, controlled, unmistakably official. Ethan watched carefully, his confusion growing. Karen crossed her arms, clearly irritated. "Is this your idea of intimidation?" she asked sharply. Ethan shook his head. "I don't even know who they are." The men approached slowly, their focus steady. One of them glanced at Ethan, then at Karen, then at the property itself, as if confirming something already known. "Sir," one of them said to Ethan, his tone respectful but firm, "are you Ethan Carter?" Ethan nodded slowly. "Yes." Karen stepped in immediately. "This is an HOA matter. You don't need to be involved." The agent didn't even look at her. Instead, he reached into his jacket, revealing a badge, and in that moment, everything changed. Karen froze, not completely, but enough for the shift to be obvious. The badge wasn't flashy, but it carried weight. The kind of authority that didn't need explanation. "Ma'am," the agent said calmly, "we need you to step back." Karen blinked, clearly trying to regain control. "This is private property under HOA jurisdiction. I'm enforcing." The second agent stepped forward slightly. "This property is not under your authority." Silence followed. Ethan stood still, trying to process what was happening. He hadn't called anyone. He hadn't asked for help, so why were they here? The first agent turned toward him. "Sir, we've been reviewing land records connected to this area." Karen shook her head quickly. "That's not relevant." "I have documentation, it is relevant," the agent interrupted gently but firmly. He glanced at the yard, the house, the surrounding area, then back at Ethan. "There's more to this property than what's been assumed." Karen's confidence faded, just a little more, because for the first time, she wasn't in control of the situation. The air felt heavier now, not tense in a loud way, but in a quiet, undeniable shift. Ethan listened carefully as the agents spoke, each word adding a new layer to something he didn't even know existed. "Your property boundaries extend further than standard residential lots," one agent explained. "There are federal easement protections tied to this land." Ethan frowned slightly. "Federal?" The agent nodded. This area connects to infrastructure that requires oversight. Your ownership places certain parts under restricted jurisdiction. Karen stepped back slowly, her expression changing from frustration to uncertainty. That doesn't make sense, she said quietly, but it did. At least, it was starting to. The yard she claimed wasn't his, was more than just his. It was protected, recognized at a level she hadn't considered. Ethan looked around, seeing everything differently now. The fence line. The open space. The boundaries no one had questioned, and suddenly, the argument wasn't about rules anymore, it was about reality. Word spread quickly, neighbors began to watch from a distance, curious about the unexpected presence of official vehicles and unfamiliar faces. Karen stood silent now, her earlier confidence replaced with something quieter, something uncertain. The agents finished their explanation, turning fully toward her. Any enforcement actions taken here are invalid, one of them said. This land is not under HOA control. Karen swallowed, her grip on the clipboard loosening slightly. Ethan didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The truth was already clear. Everything she had claimed, every demand she made, every order she gave, was based on something that wasn't real, and now, everyone could see it. Karen looked at Ethan, her voice softer than before. I wasn't aware. Ethan nodded slightly. I wasn't either. But now they both were, and that changed everything. The street returned to silence slowly. The agents left as quietly as they arrived, leaving behind a moment that would be talked about for a long time. Karen stood for a second longer, then lowered her clipboard completely. I'll correct the records, she said quietly. Ethan gave a small nod, not out of victory, but understanding. Because this was never about proving someone wrong, it was about knowing what was true. As Karen walked away, the tension faded with her. Ethan looked across. His yard again, the same yard that had suddenly become something much bigger than he ever imagined, not just his home, but something protected, something recognized, and something no one would question again, and that was the final twist in this unbelievable HOA story. If you love the drama, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment sharing your thoughts. It really helps this channel grow.